From the F3 Nation podcast studios.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
This is the COT Podcast, connecting the packs of F3 Nation through fitness, fellowship, and faith.
Andrew Maggio, 35, wire biter.
Wire biter.
Mike Kirkos, 35, Saganaki.
Saganaki.
Huckleberry, 40, rep sleepy.
Rep Sleepy.
Peter Ranky, 63, Bambi.
Bambi.
COT Podcast starts right now.
Shut up and sit down.
In there. Welcome to back to the Circle of Trust podcast. Today is June 24th. I'm excited. Got a great guest here out of F3 Omaha here today. News of the nations. Thank you, Flea. Our Go Ruck code. Yeah, man, that thing's busted. I don't know. We got a meeting Friday. Hang tight again. Always check that Nation Slack for the latest updates on that. It seems to be a moving target, and we'll keep working on that until we sort that out. We got some Freedom Ops events. Super excited. I think Motorboat's going to jump on here with me Friday for just a talk or maybe a recap of this past weekend's events, as well as previewing our Freedom Ops events in July. There's a couple mid-July, looks like that weekend of July 18th through 20th. There's a couple events, some in Carmel, Indiana with Motorboat. And there's another one out in Sacramento, Valley Rook. Maybe we can get Bilbo on here. That'd be cool. Get him on here and see what they got planned for the guys down there. Looking forward to that. Also, the State of the Nation is finally. I think we penciled that in on a couple previous Circle of Trust podcasts. I think it's getting inked in. I think July 22nd. I think that's a Tuesday. Check your local times. It is 6 p.m. Mountain Time for me. Don't know how that relates to you, but check that out. And then let's get into it. Today, I love introducing people, but it's better when they introduce themselves. So, Bogey, what you got?
Yeah, thanks, Huckleberry. Very, very happy to be here. Thanks for just getting connected with you. Yeah, my name is Bogey. Hospital name, Brock Wismiller, 39. You're from F3 Omaha. Yeah, been in F3 coming up on 3 years now here. Moved to Omaha in 22 after a few months here. Got EH'd out, and then probably maybe one of the more boring stories where walked into a coworker's office, just had shared, we weren't even in a discussion about fitness, and just said, yeah, I'd gone for a run that morning. And he goes, oh, you like working out in the morning? I said, yeah, I get it done early. And he goes, you should come to this thing tomorrow. And I said, okay. And he really hadn't sold me much more on that. And so I did it, and I was hooked, right from the start. Just a great group. F3 Omaha at that time was just about to explode. I mean, they'd been growing pretty good, but like I got in right at the time that we were just blowing up to where we are now, over 3,000 PAX members, across the city. And just, that instant connection gratification that I didn't know I was looking for. I thought things were good. I thought I was clicking along. I honestly, if I would have said at the time where the 3Fs were, the fellowship was probably the one that was lacking, but felt like my fitness was where I want it to be. I'm not going to be a bodybuilder or a beach model by any means. My faith, I felt, was pretty strong. And so I was maybe kind of seeking that camaraderie a little bit more, was what really kind of motivated me to keep coming out. And now I've just been accelerating, I feel like, for 3 years, and looking to continue accelerating and kind of find the what's next for me within F3, both, locally, and then I get to travel for my work. So I get to experience a lot of downrange and connect with people across the country too.
One of the we were just recently Dark Helmet, Scratch, and the advisory board and the board of directors were in Omaha for a weekend. I snuck in there. I invited myself and showed up. One of the things that really stood out in F3 Omaha was their third F components, their community outreach, the community giving, the community support. So when Bogey reached out to me and let me know he works with a organization called Boys Town, I remember driving through there. And our driver, which coincidentally was driving a black Tahoe for a lot of us, we thought that was interesting. But Dark Helmet never got in that one. He got in the other van, but he put us all in the other black Tahoe. I don't know what that means. But we were asking about it and really couldn't get an understanding of what it was. And so Bogey's here to tell us more about it and F3's relationship. And if anything, I think F3 Omaha, and I could be wrong about this, and Bogey, please correct me, but what F3 Omaha and the way they've attached to the community giving, and it's a ton ton. They're doing a ton. So I kind of want to highlight what's going on there for other regions to maybe listen to, maybe get ideas from about how to do it. I know Bogey's not the end all be all for F3 Omaha and the third F, but if we could head that direction, Bogey, tell us how you're involved and how the F3 supports charitable organizations, specifically Boys Town. Heck, start us off. Tell us what Boys Town is.
Yeah, a very unique connection, for us. I think if you look at, the launch of regions, around the country, you're probably talking in a park somewhere, maybe at a school, depending on what the, local setup is. Boys Town, I would imagine, is maybe one of the more unique locations that a region has been launched from. So wait time started at F3 Omaha. And when he launched it here, we started at Boys Town. And let me give you kind of the history of Boys Town and explain the significance, but also the alignment with it. Boys Town was founded in 1917 by a Catholic priest, Father Edward Flanagan, and his mission in life was to take in troubled boys, at the time. And this was, early 1900s. So there were boys that were orphaned on the streets. At that time, girls would be taken into homes to be maids or house help or whatever it might be. Boys were left homeless. If the parents couldn't afford to take care of them, they would be casted on the streets because they just didn't have a place to go. Father Flanagan started to take those boys in. There's actually a movie called Boys Town that Spencer Tracy won the Best Actor Oscar for in 1938 that really does kind of portray that story. And so I'm sure there's a lot of Pax members out there that have seen it. Your grandparents probably showed it to you. Yeah. So like that's kind of the connection. And really there's that, it's not a documentary. There's a significantly rooted in truth of what his story was, of these troubled youth that ended up in jail, in trouble with the law, homeless, those types of things. And his mission was to really just give them a sanctuary, but then also figure out the why and help correct their path in life. One of the controversial things he did as a Catholic priest, he didn't turn anybody away. So in the spirit of F3, he was open to all men, or at that time, open to all boys. He didn't, race, religion, creed, belief, skin color, whatever, like you name it, he wasn't turning kids away. He was taking them in, giving them a second chance because they were homeless, because they had trouble with the law, whatever it might be. Boys Town, has evolved over the years, over 100 years later now, to where we are today. But his intent, his mission was, let's understand why these boys, why these kids are bad. One of his famous quotes was, "There's no such thing as a bad boy. There's only bad circumstances, bad situations, bad environments. The kid, the boy himself, the girls themselves, they're not the reason. Something contributed to them behaving badly." So we take in a lot of kids at Boys Town that need a second chance in life, that have gotten in trouble with the law, have gotten in trouble with drugs, have had trouble in school, whatever it might be. Think of behavioral type issues, things that get labeled that way. Those are the kids that Boys Town takes in. On our campus here in Omaha, we're right in the heart of Omaha. We actually are our own municipality. So Boys Town is actually a recognized village within the city of Omaha. We have our own post office. We have a campus. The kids that come here are taken in by what we call a family home, family teachers, a husband and a wife that take these young boys or girls in. Boys, girls' homes are separate. And they try to help with whatever the challenges are in their lives. They try to get them into good schooling. If there's health issues, we are a full research hospital. We have mental health support. We have psychological services. We have drug treatment, drug rehab. We get a lot of kids in that have drug problems. And again, in the spirit of Father Flanagan, not by their own fault. They're not kids that, maybe willingly got into drugs, bad environment when they were growing up, different circumstances. We take in girls that are trafficked, around the country. When they're trafficked, they tend to get drugged quite a bit. So we take in kids that have all kinds of different issues like that. That's just one specific example. And our goal is to really give them a second chance in life, get them, through their schooling, get them moved on. We celebrated Huckleberry not that long before you guys were here. We actually celebrated our graduation. We had 86 kids graduate from high school here at Boys Town. Not all of our kids stay here through graduation. If they behaviorally, can get back to their homes, if they have a good home situation, they are sent back to their homes to where we believe their best environment for success is. But we have kids that complete their high school degrees here that honestly would have probably dropped out of most school districts in the country because they wouldn't have had the support that they get in our campus. So that's a long-winded answer to, where we started from, but that's the site that Wait Time chose to start Boys Town at, start F3 at Boys Town here in Omaha. And through all of that, the site, it's to give perspective to those of you that will never come to Omaha or never see Boys Town. It's more of like a really small college campus. We have academic buildings, we have a couple of churches, we have a visitor center, we have a research hospital here on our campus, we have other research facilities around, and it's a square mile. So it's a pretty decent size plot of land right really in the heart of the Omaha metro area. And we have, by all sense of the word, it's a normal high school. We have football, we have basketball, we have athletic facilities, we have a track. So all the things you kind of look for in a site for F3, Boys Town has, and they have them spread out, and they've got plenty of roads. Many of our packs in Omaha know you can get in quite a few miles of running, getting around campus for beat down here. So that connection piece there of, Father Flanagan's intent of being open to all boys really aligns with F3's being open to all men. We welcome everyone in. The work that gets done on this campus is very similar and mirroring of the work that we do, in F3, which is bettering the people around us, bettering, who we have, who we are. While it's not, solely because of that, F3 in Omaha has really advanced because we've really taken on that community component, really investing in our community, the PAX members that we have in leadership roles, the ones that are emerging now as new leaders, like myself to a degree, relatively new in the bigger picture at F3 Omaha, we're invested in the community. And I know that that's not unique to Omaha. That's F3 across the country, but having a go ahead, yeah.
I may disagree with you a little bit because I think you guys, the strength of that and the systems that you've developed are probably, I don't know, top notch. I don't know. I honestly don't know of another region that really has connected in the way you do it and the impact that you guys are having both financially and physically. And I got a shirt behind me. For those of you on the podcast, you can't see it, but if you're on YouTube, you certainly can. And it says Creighton on it. And I know there's a history, there's a reason for this shirt. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. That it predates my time, just barely in Omaha in general, but also with F3 Omaha. But Chris Gradival, Nugent was his F3 name. He was a baseball player at Creighton. He was a Omaha native, grew up here, was a very successful baseball player, played at Creighton University, had a great career there, came back as a coach at Creighton. And he was, in addition to coaching baseball at Creighton, he was managing some properties around Omaha. And he was tragically gunned down by a tenant at a property. There's a whole other story there. If you can Google that and find that if you want to, but a huge tragedy of him being murdered. And F3, as you do rally around your brothers, there was a big shock to the people that were here at the time, again, predating me. But out of that tragedy was born our Brick Builder Foundation and our work that we do to create a scholarship in Nugent's name, and I should say scholarships. So I can't pull all the numbers at the top of my head, but we award scholarships annually to local high schoolers that are going on to college that, help support them in their, endeavors, going forward, whatever that may be for their education. That is something that's been born out of just the F3 Omaha PAX, that they've done that kind of independently. It's not an externally funded, it's all internal PAX members that help generate the funds for that.
You mentioned something called a Brick Builder Foundation. What is that?
Yeah, that's kind of we do an event in the fall around that is sort of like a combination IPC, CSOP. It's a little competition that honestly, there's the only one that the only place that matters is first. Whoever wins it, there's competitiveness for that. But we do that kind of like you'd have like a 5K, running event. But the foundation itself then is built around, building up this not just the scholarship, but then also kind of the foundation support for F3 in Omaha. And we have registered ourselves as a 5C3 to be able to generate funds, not just for that scholarship, but now we're also expanding that out into how we can help fund other nonprofits or support other nonprofits here in Omaha. So we've done a number of different things. We've had some PAX members step up with volunteerism quite a bit, just providing our services too. But then we've also worked on, we had our CSOP this past spring. We had a group that we partnered with, and I apologize because the name's actually eluding me right now. But we did some financial support to that group, raised some money locally. Our foundation then was able to match those funds, so we doubled what we did to give them $1,000 for that. But the organization was seeking, they give supplies to foster foster homes and foster kids. And one of the things that they needed was not, everyone would think like diapers and baby toys and all that. What they actually requested was sporting goods for kids. So really like outside of that infant toddler stage, going up into like the, preteen adolescent years. So we came through with bikes and baseball mitts and bats and basketballs and soccer balls and sporting equipment that these kids need in these homes that they wouldn't have otherwise. And, that again was just the PAX of F3 Omaha stepping up to the plate to help support our community, because that's an organization that serves our community, serves the foster kids in our community. And again, we supported both financially and with, item donations as well.
Now, and I know you talked about the different ways of donating and helping and assisting, whether it was physical labor, but you guys also grew mustaches. How the heck does growing mustaches generate funds? What was that?
Yeah, well, it draws attention, that's for sure. There's we've had a number of different guys that do it. Probably our most famous one is Plague, and I think it's much debate from Dread and Dark Helmet whether that's a good mustache or not. But we've had some guys do it for there's a couple different organizations. Some of the national level, I know there's one locally that's been done that some guys have participated in. I'll admit I grew a mustache this past fall just for the fun of it. Didn't necessarily do it, but we've done some around men's health, around youth support, those types of things. We've got the community of Omaha, and I'm going to expand beyond F3. It's a philanthropic community. I work in the fundraising industry. That's been kind of my whole career. Omaha is one of those communities out there that really is known philanthropically, that, we have a lot of successful individuals, businesses, family foundations. So the giving of money is very common. And you can see that. But then what goes beyond that is the service to the community. And so as much as we do within F3 Omaha, the city of Omaha is really big on that as well, and giving back and being involved. We're an events community. And what I mean by that is we love to throw a party. I'm just on the heels. College World Series ended 2 days ago here in town, and while that's not a charitable event by any means or any stretch of imagination, Omaha is a city that likes to throw a party. And so any reason we have to socialize, to get together, and that'd be great if you just wanted to be a party town, if you wanted to be Las Vegas, and just the city that never sleeps. But, we throw a party, but we also throw parties with intention, and we rally behind what we need in our community, what we can do elsewhere. And that's a real important part, I think, of the culture of Omaha that we then bring into F3 Omaha. And, we have a lot of transplants. Wait time started F3 Omaha after moving here from South Carolina. I'm a transplant myself. We got a lot of guys that are native, to Omaha. But the people that come in here really like to stay here. And it's because of that community sense that we have. And that's what a lot of people really, I think, attribute to, is you've got that buy-in, that your community supports what you're doing, whether it's growing a goofy mustache to raise money for, cancer research or men's health or whatever it might be. Those things don't get golfed at here in Omaha. They get embraced, they get celebrated, and that really helps encourage other people and certainly other PAX members to continue doing those and to expand on them.
F3 doesn't specifically target Boys Town for financial, maybe, and it's not all towards Boys Town. It's towards a lot of organizations throughout the community, correct?
Yes. Yeah. We have our hands, Heartland Hope Mission. We do a number of different things around community. Heartland Hope's on my mind because that's coming up this weekend. We do a volunteer drive for their summer picnic that they do. So we have a lot of organizations we partner with.
And so to organize that, and I don't know if a lot of regions have this, but you guys have a fundraising committee through F3. How did that get started? What does that look like? How often do you meet? Who do you decide, like, oh, we're not giving to Boys Town anymore? We already given to them too much. We got to give to the Girls Town, or I don't know, something else.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. So it's, it's sort of out of necessity. I think it's a little bit of it. I can't speak to the, when it actually got founded. I wasn't, part of that structure. But what I can say again is, back to my prior comments of Omaha being an event city, we like to be involved in things, and it's not just the parties. We would like to do things, like to be involved. We'd like to support our community. And so a lot of it grew out of that. And I think if you look at while I can't speak to the nation, but when I look at F3 Omaha, our growth, especially in the last few years, has really come from the 20 to mid 40 year olds, and basically by that saying people that have younger families, men that are involved coaching athletics, kids are involved in arts and music and those types of things. And what that lends it to is, do you really have the time in your schedule always to do the volunteer piece. And so there's a lot of that where, many of our PAX members don't have that added time. They maybe are sacrificing some family time, which if you're focused on the Concentrica, you shouldn't be doing to, go out and volunteer. You got to find that balance. But give it, in the philanthropy world, we say, give your time, talent, or treasure. And if you can't give your time because you're tied up there, what are your talents? And then if not, what's your treasure? And if it's $5, if it's $50, if it's $5,000, that's that opportunity to give something back. And so, speaking as somebody who works in the nonprofit world, there's nothing better than a check. There's nothing better than an undesignated check that arrives. But a very close second is the people that will show up to volunteer. And we really check both those boxes here in Omaha, in that we go out and we help organizations that do house painting around the city of Omaha for elderly people, houses that are kind of run down, people that can't, do that work themselves. Like I said, we do a lot of toy drives. We do stuff around the holidays. One of our PAX members here in town, again, just giving a random example, where really embracing, I think, the F3 culture. I think what we are all told we're supposed to do, bringing an idea forward, you're not going to be met with resistance. You're going to be met with, how do you execute this? How do you take this through? Ketchup is a great PAX member, a great leader we have here in Omaha. And him and his wife, they work with an organization to provide holiday gifts and gift packages to veterans who are, not necessarily homeless, but maybe down on their income, that, in a tough spot. And I forget the exact numbers. I want to say we were pushing 100 veterans last year around our community, local area, that received care packages from men, families in F3. And, that's where we're also passing that along, because I know the PAX members that chose to do that. And, I was one of them. I've got 2 young kids at home. I've got a 12-year-old and 8-year-old. And we went out and went shopping off this list for this veteran to make sure we could do it. And again, teaching that element to our kids, to the next generation, is as important to building our community as it is to actually just donating. We do the same thing with food drives. We have around the holidays some organizations we partner with where we actually take meals, food, presents to directly to people's homes, not just to a shelter or a drive location, but to people's homes. And I know we've had 2.0s that have gotten to experience that firsthand, gotten to see what a needy family really looks like, firsthand, and why it's important that we give back the treasure that we have.
I love that. Sorry, I got a little distracted while you're talking. I was looking up Gaga. Do you know who Gaga is? He's there. I think he was growing a mustache too, but while I got you, and I'm gonna shift this conversation a little bit, but I want to say hello to Skids, my boy Skids over there, and Gaga. Random story. I went to Omaha, and I was like, well, when I get here, I've never been here. I always like to eat something I can't eat in where I'm from, and so I was recommended to go to. And before I left, I was like, my kids were talking to me, and they're like, "Where are you going to eat?" And I was like, "Well, it's Omaha. I got to eat a steak, I think." And my son was like, "We're definitely not eating sushi. There's no sushi anywhere near Omaha." And turns out the first place that was recommended to me was a sushi place out of the airport's name, Amame or something. And I went there with Horse Shack, and it was amazing. So thank you, Gaga. Appreciate that. All right, so I want to dig into something here that I didn't prepare Bogey for this. This is where I would put on the big hat and we go into big questions. But I love, and I want to dive into a little bit of it. I think it's maybe your D2X. We'll see. But you certainly have. I read a book in 2007 called Boys Adrift, and kind of some of the problems you described back in the 1917, back when Flanagan opened this thing up, still persists today. And I was an assistant principal for 10 years in elementary school. And I just 80% of the kids that came into my office were male, boys. And this book, and it's certainly probably not complete, but it made a case that boys, when they enter a school building, they're told to sit down and shut up essentially, and for 8 hours. And that's how they start their day. And to help them do that, they take medicines, Adderall, and the other ones. And it's hard. Mischief kind of went out the door. Roughhousing kind of went out the door. Competition went out the door. And so boys kind of got adrift is what the author was making the case. And they found a little bit of solitude in video games, a place where you could challenge each other. You could level up without people getting upset about it. You could get a little violence and you shoot some Fortnite action, shoot them down. and that's certainly one of the gentler ones, but that was kind of an increase in video games. What, from an F3 perspective, and when you describe boys coming into the town, it kind of reminded me of guys coming into F3. We take all kinds. We don't turn anybody away, and it's fun. That's what I love. Billionaires are working out next to guys that have done time, and nobody knows, nobody cares, and we're just there together. Specifically as men, raising. Do you have children?
Yeah. I got a son and a daughter, 12-year-old son.
Specifically, how hard, from an F3 perspective and growing up into a man, maybe let me start you off with, what qualities should we as men be teaching our young boys right now that maybe we're missing? Maybe, I don't know. It's different than it was. Where can we ramp up some of our taking care of our boys and growing them into men? What do you think about that?
Yeah. I'll say this. You got a 12-year-old son at home. Rizzo is his F3 name. He's been out many times. He's actually, here's a little brag point, whatever you want to say. We had a F3 Foundation Brick Builder event, a little fundraising kind of dinner thing. And so my Em and I go there, and first time for her to meet some of the people. You see guys out in the community, but we're all together. And the number of guys that came up to her and said, "Oh, you're Rizzo's mom," not, "Oh, you're Bogey's." So the reason I share that is what we do in F3 is what we should be sharing people.
I was when we were in Omaha, Skids texted him, like, "Where are you going to be?" And he's like, "I'll meet you out there." And he texted me at the last second. He said, "I'm sorry, but my son has an F&G coming tomorrow and I can't meet you." And I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I just love that. So, and we can get in that conversation, man. That's a hot topic with letting under 18 in or not 18. And Omaha just doesn't seem to have that problem.
It is. And you guys just missed it the Wednesday. So I'm currently, for the next about 2 months or so, still a site queue here for a Wednesday site. And my son, my 2.0 at 12 did a VQ. And because he's come out to the beatdowns, and we do 2.0 workouts where we play kickball and games and stuff, and those are just fun, father kid times. But he's come out and he's loved it. And what's gratifying to me and why I share this is because he's talked about what he wants to get out of F3. And he recognizes the chance for him in the summertime, because during the school year, it's just not possible for him to get out and do a workout and do something, be active outside of his sports. But he has embraced the connection with men, with talking with guys, with having conversations. And, at 12 years old, like I'm certainly proud of that as a dad, but that's not, you can have kids that want to do that, but to have men that are receptive to that, to have a conversation with a 12-year-old like that is something different. And so I think to your original question of what can we do? My personal belief of it is that we need to promote vulnerability. We need to let them be confident to be vulnerable about their emotions, about their feelings, about their strengths, about their weaknesses, whatever those things are, because that is something that gets suppressed so much in society. And I know there's a lot of taboo around, like overly emotional or everyone's feelings and all this. Like, forget all of that. What I'm saying here is like, we need our kids, particularly our boys, if we want them to become men that are emotionally strong, that are, can be leaders, that can handle what life throws their way. We got to teach them how to deal with their emotions, how to deal with, their things. And that's not an internal dealing. What's the best part of F3? You get into, at the name of this podcast, you get into a COT and some guy bears his heart and soul, and tears come from it. And tears don't come from him. They come from the guys around that are hearing it, that their M is going through this, their son's having some trouble, their dad's battling prostate cancer, whatever it might be. Like, those are the things that get shared. And when those get shared, I know I'm speaking to a bunch of strangers out there, but I can promise everyone out there has had that experience.
It's not a whole lot. It's like 70, maybe 7 or 8 people listening.
But I know because I've done it. I know guys here have done it. The conversations continue, and you want to talk about how do you deepen connections with people? Vulnerability. Like, you open yourself up to others. And again, that's not a, being weak and being soft and cry. It's not that. It's letting people into what is going on in your mind. And we want to talk, we can go down the whole road of mental health and all that, but like, if people actually, had that comfort and confidence to be able to share that, hey, I'm struggling with something, I need to be better. People always say that, if you see something, say something type of mentality. Like, if you see somebody acting like, well, how do you know what that is? People can mask that so well. They can mask the pain that they're going through. and they mask it because they're not comfortable or confident to share it with others because they're going to get judged or whatever it might be. And one of my goals as a father is to raise a son that's emotionally strong enough to be able to say, I need help. I can't do this on my own. Or to be able to approach somebody and say, let me help you. Let me be the helping hand for you. It's not easy because that part is as hard as admitting it to yourself. And we've had a lot of conversations here in F3 Omaha around a COT at cafeteria. That's one of the things my son loves about coming to F3. He loves the workout, but he loves going to cafeteria because when we go to cafeteria, he can kind of branch off and talk to somebody. And again, whether that is done elsewhere or not is kind of a moot point, but it speaks to cafeteria, the strength of that fellowship time, the COT, the strength of being vulnerable. All of those things come from sharing, from talking, from getting things out there, from not doing what used to be considered manly, which is suppress it all, swallow it down, be a tough guy, have the exterior. It's quite the opposite. The true man can admit his emotions, can admit what his challenges are, and can share emotionally with the people around him because he's got that confidence and comfort in his own skin.
Yeah, I subscribe to the whole nobody cares, work harder as like a mentality. Like it just motivates me, but at the same time, it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's we should care and we still work harder. But and leaning into that, there was a podcast, Plagu or the Plague, or I just like Plague. It's just he's saved in my contacts as Plague. I don't like the word the, but he was interviewing on a podcast a guy named Da Vinci. And Da Vinci is a triple respect, double respect, triple respect, I think.
It's triple, I believe. Yeah, it's up there.
And he talked about exactly what you're talking about. The thing that how when even if with your triple respect, you're still struggling day to day with your purpose, with and I don't know, something in me thought at some point, man, I'm just going to be comfortable. I'm just going to believe in myself, and I could just, and it's not that way. I feel like we push so hard in everything we do, and whether it's work, whether it's family, and at some point, we always feel like it's not enough. We're like, we're not doing enough, or we're not giving enough, or we're not loving enough, and you wear yourself out. And when you're in those worn out spaces, that's when it hits you. That's when that, man, my wife didn't say the right thing, and it rocks your world. And I definitely F3 gives me more practice with that, and being that vulnerable then and talking about it, and then when I do hear those things, I'm like, okay, it's just a moment, and I can share that. I'm sharing it with you. That actually happened yesterday to me. Had a big meeting yesterday morning. It didn't go well. The other guy's a lot like me, and we are very opinionated, and we said some things that probably weren't the most conducive to each other. And not a lot of people have those tough conversations. That's one of the things F3 does well, is teaches guys how to have tough conversations with each other with grace and candor. And at the end of the day, it's okay. It's just a conversation that we needed to have. But, in those conversations, nothing's perfect. They could be done. Everything could have been done better. Communication can always be better. I just don't want to hear it at the time. After I've had that conversation, I don't want to be told how I could have done it better. I just don't. And that has the ability to affect my entire day. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
Cool. I'm gonna tell the story. I get called Santa a lot. I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
But, the thing I love about it is, to me, it's the greatest compliment. And Dred, I know you're listening. You called me Santa at a GTE such and such in Katy, Texas, all night long, and it motivated me. I loved it. But Santa, I don't know who this guy is, but the world decided to remember him, and for no good reason. We can't find out why. But just other than we do, and we all do. We all can't wait to tell our kids about him, tell them how kind he was, tell them how he focused on kids, and then at the age of 9, we tell them, we lied. That was just a trick. There ain't nobody out there like that. But the world can't forget this guy. And that's legacy. That's absolute legacy. And we as people, as humans, have decided that we have to carry this spirit forward forever, probably. And it's different variations throughout the world, but this guy exists. What? And you call me that guy? What? Oh man, thank you. And so I do have a heart for, I do work, my interest in purpose is specifically youth development, empowerment, and getting them to take on this world after we let it go, hand them the keys. And do you guys allow female 2.0s to come to F3 workouts as well?
We do. When we do a 2.0 workout, that's open to all kids. And when it's those, like, it's very specific that, like, that's going to be, honestly, if you're And I feel bad because we do them here at in Boys Town, and so the Oracle is the site that we have named after Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. So we have 2 beatdowns on a Saturday morning, and typically it's the 7 a.m. if we do a 2.0 beatdown at.
Did you call Warren Buffett the Oracle of Omaha?
That's his nickname, yeah, Oracle of Omaha. It's kind of his.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Oracle is our founding site. So that 7 a.m. will typically be a 2.0 workout, and when it's those, like, feel bad. Sometimes some guys show up not checking the pre-blast or anything and knowing, but like when you show up in his 2.0s, like you're there to fireman carry your kids or play kickball or dodgeball or sharks and minnows. It's truly a playtime. It really is. But we do have a lot of other shows, and I'll say the under 20 that do come out with some regularity. I mentioned, my son did a VQ. I think it was the day after his Snare, another PAX member of ours here. He had his 2 sons actually did a co VQ together and ran a beat down themselves. And I think for my sons, there was 22 PAX members that showed up that day, and for theirs, I think they had close to 40. It was like 38 or something like that. So guys show up, and I can tell you, both of those beatdowns were beatdowns. They weren't modified, anything like that. I don't know of a daughter showing up, for any of those. So I think it has been kind of restricted to that, and that, in the spirit of what F3 is. But when we do a 2.0, that is kind of open to all kids, because it's really the opportunity for us to show the kids what F3 is, because most of them will never be up in the morning to see that, to go, be out there. We have, again, those 2 exceptions, but it's an opportunity for them to get out and interact and be involved and see each other. And obviously, you get friends. So the kids that come to the 2.0 workouts, they all know each other. So they're all playing, they're ready to play anyways. So it works out where you're just going to welcome everybody in on those 2.0 beatdowns specific and know that it's just going to be fun and games.
Yeah, and there are 2 distinct camps in F3 about this particular topic, and don't send me comments. I don't care. Roma out of Houston, I know how you feel, buddy. Tink, I hear you, buddy. I hear you. We're just talking. We're just talking over here. I don't need the comments down below. It is what it is. F3 boys, it does not. We were 18 and up, and every region is unique, and as long as you're 5 core principles, I think we I look at it as a garden. We're all, as long as you're growing a good garden, and my crop over here may not be as good as your crop in that section of the garden, and it's all different, but it still can be a good garden or a recipe. I don't know, you can make any metaphor you want. Go.
If it's not impacting me, I'm not going to be sweating it, And so it's in our community, like it's in Omaha, like, hopefully people don't have issues with that, because they really shouldn't. Our community is unique. We do our own things. We do some things good. We do some things bad. It's all unique. And we wouldn't try to dictate how somebody in any other part of the country would choose to run their beatdowns or workouts, or what the limitations are. To me, that's the spirit of F3. What Dredd envisioned is you're there, you make the call. We don't need him. We don't need you. We don't need me. Like, you're there in the moment. You decide. You make that decision. I decided this morning to fart sack because there was thunder and lightning when I woke up, and I didn't even check to see if the site was open or not. I'm like, you know what? I'm making the adult decision that I'm staying home. I know the beatdowns happened. I know we had sites that had rain, ones that didn't, whatever. But again, that to me is what the spirit of what they want F3 to do is. You decide. You're in the moment. You're there. It's not somebody else's call to make for you.
When we were in Omaha, it was such nice weather. It reminded me so much of Boise. It was low humidity.
Yeah.
Not this week. Higher.
Not this week. It was high humidity this week.
Somebody standing next to me was just staring, and they were like, it lost. They had that glaze over, and they were just looking at the sky, and they were like, this is it. This is the last good weekend we're ever going to have for months. I think that has come true. But that kid looked so sad. He looked so sad that he knew what was coming, and I think it's there. I think I saw you guys in a heat index, and matter of fact, the smoke was starting to roll in from Canada.
Yeah, I queued yesterday, and we took a couple of breathing breaks, and literally it was, okay, get some oxygen back in you, because that air was thick at 5:15.
I believe it. All right. Another quick question. Speaking of Boys Town, what's probably, and I know there's exceptions to every rule, and it's hard to generalize because it's not true. It's not 100% true. But what relationship would a kid, what commonality would a kid entering Boys Town have? What's some typical factors that precipitate a kid showing up there? And specifically, I'm looking for you to say something about a relationship with father. Is it there? Is it not there? Is it a trend we see when fathers are absent? They might end up there.
Yeah, we have some data on that. I don't know that we.
It's a terribly leading question. I apologize.
Yeah.
I just let it right down.
No. I know that we don't actively track, but I would say this, and I would more generalize the term father in that in answering your question of, I would think the father role is maybe what's absent, because I will say this. I know a lot of mothers out there that are much better fathers than any man.
I love that. I mean, like, there goes the comments down below. Heck yeah.
Yeah. Bring that on. But I will stand by it, and I will give you real world examples of it, of what I've seen. But I would say it's the absenteeism of the father figure. Yeah. And that can be the man is not there. That could be that, dad passed away, whatever, but that also doesn't necessarily mean just because the man is not present that the father figure is not present. Like it can be the mother that takes that role on. So I think that's a big part of it. If we look at, yes, the gender roles get assigned to what a father should be, what a mother should be. But if you look at, if you took the titles away, if you took the genders away, and you talked about like this role A and role B, and I'm not saying which one is which, but you'd have distinct things that you kind of expect out of role A versus role B. And then there's some shared things. And guess what happens in any industry, in any job? If role A, all of a sudden that person is gone, role B is going to have to take on some of those duties. Well, if you were hired to be role B, you maybe can't do that and can't take it on. And so that I would say when you lose some of that guidance in their life, that's what's going to lead to it. But it's not exclusive, and it's not a specific thing there, because like some of what it is then just kids being misunderstood too. One of the other things that we do, and I'll try not to make this too long of a story, but we do a lot of work, and we are one of the leaders nationally, globally, in hearing and audiology research for kids. We've patented the hearing test that's done at hospitals for newborns. And I'll share this story. This is kind of in the spirit of what Boys Town does and how we try to get to the root of why a kid maybe has a problem. I have a niece who has severe hearing issues. And they knew from birth. She was administered the same test that was patented here at Boys Town. They knew from birth that was going to be the case. Her parents, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, knew what that path forward was going to be. She's not deaf. She had hearing loss. She has, damage within her ears that prevent her hearing, but she has hearing aids, implants that help her to hear, all this. If she was born in 1920, right when Boys Town was being started, medically, they wouldn't have known that she had the diagnosed hearing issue. And what would her future have been? She would have been labeled as a troubled child, doesn't listen, doesn't follow directions. When medically, there was a reason why she was not listening, not following directions, not behaving. So there's always factors that go into it. And the absence of understanding what's causing that behavior, those symptoms, that's really more at the heart of what needs to be done. And so to your question of, is it the father? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean it's because there's an absence of a man in their life as the father. It's the traits that a father is supposed to do, whether you're a man or woman, whatever, that role of what they're supposed to do for their child, particularly for their son, changes it a little bit, but it's the same thing. You have that role there. And when it's absent, then that leads to other misunderstandings. And again, it's not like you medically diagnose a father not being there. That's not the case with the hearing thing, but they run parallels in that, well, why does that kid behave that way? Because something's missing. There's something that's there. It's either something medical, it's something spiritual, something figuratively, literal, whatever it might be, but that is contributing to it. And I would imagine, Huckleberry, with your background working in the schools, you came across a lot of kids like that, and probably ones that had on the surface very secure looking homes, mom, dad, success, and kid is a problem child. And yet you probably had ones that were a problem child that didn't have a dad or didn't have a mom. There's no right or wrong way, but I think the understanding of where that kid is at is what we can all do collectively, is have a little bit of grace, because we do it every day in the circle of trust. We sit there and say, I see you. I see that you're going through something. I'm going to open my heart to you and listen. If we did that with everybody in the world, we might not have the time or capacity to do that. But if you had that led with that mindset of, I want to understand why you think this way, why you will say that, why you'll do this, we'd have a lot less issues to deal with and a lot more understanding for people that are misunderstood regularly.
I agree. Thank you for this. I want to add in through my experience, and then you can argue if you want to. Single parents, male, father, mother. If you're a single parent out there and doing what you do, you are tough as nails. Oh my gosh, I haven't met a single parent that I don't believe is just an angel. And so tough being the mom and the dad and providing both of those support systems, like you said. All right, I got to close this out. Get that music rolling. State of the Nation's coming up. What you want to hear from us? Anything? Any questions? Should we? Any hopes? What we say? What you think?
I just want to see us continue to encourage what we do. I think that's most important. Like let's double down on what we're good at. Let's not try to be more than we need to be. We'll double down on what we're good at. We'll make this world a better place if we do that.
I love that. Lean in, double down what we're doing. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get up on that stage, tell the world what we're doing. I love it. All right, I'm going to kick the music off. Hang on just a little bit, a second. Let some things roll up. And Bogey, can't tell you. Love y'all. Love you. Thank you. Everything what you're doing.